Hey there traders, welcome back for episode 66 from the StockBandit.tv. I hope you made some jingle today in that rally. Alright, so in this episode I want to talk about something which every one of us as traders face, which is the surprise market move. You know, we got one today and I'll touch on that momentarily, but you know, I've been trading the market for the past decade and I've observed it incredibly closely during that entire stretch, and so by that measure I feel, or you know, I like to think that I've got a little bit better feel for things than the average part-time trader. But that doesn't mean that I, you know what's going to happen all the time, and because I certainly don't. Now let me repeat that. I do not know what the market will do, and I don't have to, so I'm fine with that. I'm a trader, so I learn to make plans in the form of these if-then scenarios, and then I go with it from there. And as conditions change, I do adapt, but I'm never married to one single idea, and that's crucial as a trader. And that thought of adaptation, which coincidentally we discussed back in episode 16, by the way, for those of you who enjoy watching the archives, you know, that idea of adaptation brings to mind something else, which is how aggressively do you adapt? Now when I throw out that question, I'm saying on a day like today, how much of an adjustment is needed? Well, you know, it really boils down to where you're coming from in terms of positions and directional bias. So let me explain what that means. You know, I had no positions on overnight, so I didn't have to run to cover my shorts or make any drastic moves like that. But let me give you a few scenarios that I was expecting. So this kind of speaks to that directional bias scenario. You know, one of the things I felt like could happen coming into today was we bounced big on major volume. But that didn't happen because, you know, the volume was incredibly light today, way below average and lighter than all of last week. I'm looking at the NASDAQ here. We got a 3% bounce, but the volume was just downright pathetic. So, you know, the big volume, big bounce didn't happen. We got only half of that. Another scenario I felt like could happen was after this kind of rollover move and then a minor bounce toward the end of last week, I felt like we could go ahead and crack this major area right here in the NASDAQ at 1665 and go ahead and just break it on down pretty good. But obviously that didn't happen either. That level also coincides with 875 S&P on the S&P 500. So obviously neither one of those levels were anywhere sniffed today. Obviously all we did was gap up and rally. So scenario 2 was out. And then the last scenario, which I really felt like was the most likely, was, you know, kind of a this rollover kind of move and then a gradual minor bounce over a few days time, and then a move down through that major level right there. And of course we didn't get that because instead we got kind of the market just, you know, rocketed higher today. And so, you know, anytime you get a 3% advance in the indices, it's certainly not a quiet bounce. So that's much larger and much sharper than what I was expecting. So, you know, today, given that the three things I expect, or you know, that I made room, that I allowed for, the three scenarios that I thought could happen, none of those happened. And so as a result, I was faced with the choice of adapting and adjusting my game plan. And you know, the harder that I looked for plays today, the less I found were there. And the lack of solid volume was really the biggest reason. And so at that point, I was faced with a decision. I could do one of two things. I could either start forcing trades out of fear of being left behind, that this market's just going to go straight back up to the moon without me, or I could take it pretty easy on the trading front. And ultimately, I went with the latter. You know, I only did a few trades, and I'm sure that someone out there just killed it today, and good for them. And maybe you did, and if so, then I'm glad. That's great. But I personally was caught off guard by today's move, and particularly by the way that it happened. You know, that very light volume was the thing, and obviously as a trader I really key in closely on volume. And so what I did was, you know, just choose to trade another day, and I went for some singles today, no home runs. So as I wrap this up, I just want to say, you know, when you're trading, some days the market ends up doing something completely different than what you might expect. It's okay. Accept it, make the best adjustment that you can with what you're seeing, and then roll with it from there. If it means that more plays are coming along for you after that adjustment, great. If it means less plays come along, that's totally fine. That's something that we've got to remember as traders. It's all about quality, not just quantity. So accept that some curves will be thrown and do the best that you can with it. All right? Thanks for joining me once again for this episode. I will be back soon with more videos, but in the meantime, trade like a bandit.